Hey everyone, it's Lainey and welcome back to my channel. I did mention in my June TBR video, I believe, that I wanted to make a dedicated reading vlog for this book, and I know that I am severely behind because I feel like all of Booktube or all of the fantasy readers on Booktube have made a reading vlog for this book. It's a dark gothic fantasy, high stakes, there's romance in it. It's like a Draco Hermione, I don't want to disrespect it and say fan fiction, but it was like first a fan fiction and then it got written into its own story. I'm like 120 pages in and I'm loving it. I love a good independent female main character with a true enemies to lovers male main character, because sometimes they're a little cheesy. But yeah, we're gonna read this book. We're gonna see how it goes, and I hope you all enjoy the vlog. So I realized I never posted like an update, but I'm currently on page 281. I'm at the very start of part 2, and it's awesome. You get to learn so much about the war, and then Farron and the way that he's been treating Helena, and Stroud the doctor who's like been healing Helena as she's enduring like all of this torture and stuff. She has ulterior motives than she's been telling Farron, who is responsible for her transference. But then like stuff gets revealed about Helena, what she's been doing, but she doesn't obviously remember it because she's been in this like coma. And like that's where the book starts off, is she gets like de-thawed. And then also there was definitely like moments in the book where I was like, oh my god, like this is getting like really hard to read because of the things that were like happening to Helena. You really feel for her because all of these terrible things just keep happening to her like over and over and over again. Every time Farron's like a little bit nice to her, like something twice as horrible happens. Like it really is so dark, but it's so good. Despite him being like a villain and it kind of giving like Stockholm syndrome, I'm starting to like him. Like I love their interactions between each other. I love the dialogue. I love his snarkiness. It's brought on very early on in the book. Like, I feel like that's what helps me get attached and kind of root for the love interest, because otherwise you're just some guy. But I'm really liking it. I love it so much so far, and I'm excited to start part 2. I don't know what the different parts are. I know there was a recommending like way to read the book, but so far I like getting to learn her as she remembers and learns herself. Like it's really good. But yeah, that is that's kind of the rundown so far of this book. I like it. I like it so far. You've noticed the scenery behind me has changed. I'm at my mom's for the week. I have finally reached the halfway point in the book, and it is so good. Like, it is going to be a 5-star read for me for sure. I am rooting for the love romantic subplot so hard, and it's so weird because it's also so conflicting because he treats her like actual garbage. Like the first part, she is literally his prisoner, and he acts like he hates her, or like he does hate her so much. She needs information, and she like gets this task to try and manipulate Farron into giving the Eternal Flame all of this information about the Undying, what territories they're going to be taking over, their battle strategies and stuff, so they can better plan to win this war. So they kind of use Helena to try and manipulate Farron into giving them information, and in return Helena gives Farron, you know, like attention, I guess, or something, because he's like lonely. A typical setup for an angry man, to be honest. I just feel so bad for her because it feels like everyone is against her and they're all using her for their own selfish reasons, and she's just kind of
okay with it, but I'm really liking this book. That's kind of the update that I wanted to give. I'm probably going to give an update closer to the end of the book, so maybe like in another 200 to 300-ish pages, but I do plan on annotating this book after I finish reading it. I'm already putting in my notes app like page numbers and stuff that I want to go back to, because every once in a while you'll get like little glimpses of something that you read in part 1 that you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to reread part 1 because now I have all this new information and stuff. I've been contemplating whether or not when I finish part 2 if I'm going to read part 1 again, or if I'm just going to read the prologue. I really want to reread part 1, but I know a lot of people said you should read it the way that it was intended to first, and then you can read it however you want the second time through. So maybe when I finish the book, I'll go back and reread the prologue and part 1. I did hear that if you kind of like wanted to hit a little bit harder after you read part 2, it's good to like reread the prologue at least. So I might do that when part 2 is finished. But it's just, it's so good. So glad I waited to read this book. But yeah, that's just a little reading update.
So it is the next day, and I have only read, I think, like almost 100 pages. I'm starting to get to the point now where I'm like, I should not be rooting for the romantic subplot. Like, this is getting like very toxic, very possessive, and I feel really bad for Helena, because he is her only source of comfort in this war, and I wholeheartedly feel like he's taking advantage of her. He's realizes like how guilty she feels, or how weak she is, how she's really yearning for comfort and for friendship and to be loved, and she kind of voices that to him. Like, it's really become a codependent, I don't want to say relationship, but like this partnership that they now have with each other. And it is great getting to see Farron open up about his true intentions and like why he brought Helena over and basically like bargained her. It's crazy because I'm like, I am rooting for it, because it is a little glimpse of light and hope in the span of the other chapters where you're just constantly learning about death, and you're constantly learning about all of her friends like losing limbs, or you know, like the resources in the hospital are like dwindling and stuff like that, and she gets like reprimanded by her generals and stuff. And so when it's almost like when you get to the parts of Farron, you feel like Helena, where you're like, oh my god, we've been experiencing darkness and tragedy for so long, and now when she goes and sees Farron, that she's gonna get this like little glimpse of light, and we're gonna get this romance piece. And then she leaves and it's tragedy again. But it makes sense. I mean, she doesn't have many people on her side who aren't using her. She's constantly reminded about how expendable she is. Like how she just feels like she's only loved when she's being used, and she feels like she has to constantly like prove herself. And then she meets Farron and she gets this little glimpse of light. And then you're like, girl, he's super toxic. But then you're like, you know what, if I was experiencing tragedy every single day of my life, and then there was this man who was giving me this attention, this affection, maybe I would also feel like that. Like maybe I would fall for this toxic genocide man. But it's just like, I'm still questioning, how did we get to the point where Helena is prisoner? Because I think we're about 150-ish pages until part 3 begins. So that means like there's some mega shit is about to go down, but I have no idea. I don't know where this book is going, which is insane because I'm 700 pages in and I still don't know. Like, I don't know how she became prisoner. It's crazy. It's almost driving me insane. And I'm so worried because there's so many people who have cried at the end of this book, and I genuinely don't know if I'm prepared for that. I don't know if I'm prepared to be in tears by the end of this. But yeah, that's my update. want to preface, it's a little bit over a week later. I've been so busy. But I'm on page 870 and I keep forgetting to update when I'm like having visceral reactions. If you can't tell, I've been crying a little bit over the events of what's been happening. But there's literally no other way to describe this book other than it's just devastating. And every point of this book, like, there was no point where I could have guessed what was happening or could have guessed what anyone's true intentions were or who worked with who, and just, it's so depressing. And I think I've cried like 4 times in this book. I love it so much. It's like a 10 out of 10 stars. Like, God, is it depressing? Even the week break that I took from reading this book, like, no joke, I only read 20 pages and I was like bawling. Like, I'm that connected to the characters and to this story, and I do not cry easily. Like, I'm gonna need a big, like a decent break after this because this is so much, but I love it a lot. Page 888. Oh my God. My heart. It's literally only 12 pages later, and I have to stop reading every couple pages because it's like getting really hard to read. I feel exactly like Helena does right now, just constantly, like, just hoping, just having nothing but hope and nothing to back it up. And I'm honestly contemplating if I'm gonna read it or if I'm gonna take a break, because it's a lot and I only have 120 pages left until it's over. So I finished the book and I am truly in love with this story. The last 200 pages of this book were truly devastating. Like, every couple pages I was yearning, I was crying, I was tense, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I was rooting for everybody. There was so much information revealed, there was betrayal, like, there was just so much going on in the last 250 pages that it was like just one thing after the other and you didn't know what was gonna happen. The book truly ended in the way that it needed to end. I was surprised at the ending, to be completely honest. I did not expect it to end that way. I did really love this book. I would recommend this book to anybody who loves dark fantasy, gothic fantasy, historical fiction. This is more on the higher fantasy end. If you're looking for like an intro into fantasy, I would not recommend this book at all. There's so much to keep track of because a big portion of the book is like Helena losing her memory. So then when part 2 comes and you get this huge section of backstory, it's like remembering the flashbacks and then like going back to maybe pages that you remember them saying X, Y, and Z. Like, you also have to put the puzzle pieces together. So I wouldn't recommend this as like a starter. But if you like dark fantasy, and you know that you do, I would definitely recommend this book. Like, this was great. It was a wonderful journey to be on. I think I was really intimidated by the 1,000-page count, but I think more fantasy books would benefit more from just being standalones, because I feel like there was close to no fluff in this book. Like, a lot of it really wasn't repetitive, and that is something that I heard about this book, is that a lot of people said that there were moments of a lot of repetition, but I think the way that the author writes the story, it really makes you feel like Helena in every aspect of the story. So I think in parts where maybe people say that it dragged, like, it was meant to drag, because she's essentially a prisoner. Every single day of her life is the exact same. She only knows one way of life, which is the war. And so, like, those moments can feel very repetitive, but I think there's enough happening within the chapters and within the pages that, like, even though there's a lot going on with the war, like, she discovers things. You hear a lot about what's happening, even if it's not directly happening to her. Like, there's a lot of motivation behind her wanting to save people and, like, the true intentions of the people that she's working with or in the Eternal Flame, and her friends and stuff. So I think it was enough to keep my attention. I understand that people say it is repetitive, but I think that's intentional. Like, it's very intentional that is the way it was supposed to be written. I'd be really intrigued to see if there is a spin-off to this. And if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I would be really interested in to see kind of like further where this goes with the characters that we have now at the end of the book.
But yeah, I love this book. I generally thought it was super great. This is more of a war heavy book. It literally is start to finish the entirety of the war that takes place while Helena is in it, and kind of a little bit of the aftermath of the war, like a time skip in the last like 30-ish pages. But I'm actually so sad that it's over. It really reconfirmed that I love reading. I love dark fantasy. Actually, I think I've rated Fourth Wing, which was like a darker, I don't want to say dark fantasy, but it was like an academia, like dark romantasy, if you could call it dark fantasy. There was just like a lot of war going on, and like the majority of this book is war. I think the last 20% of Alchemised was more heavily focused on the romance, because it's kind of like the conclusion and like what they've been working so hard towards. I'm trying so hard to summarize this book in my review of it without spoiling it. I'm going to be making a complete spoiler review of this book that's going to be in a separate video, because I loved it so much and I feel like it deserves a dedicated video. I don't care if anybody watches it, I want to make it. It's nice that it's off my physical TBR, but I think it was so nice to just be with the characters for so long. The way that Senlin Yu writes the story, every single character that was mentioned was three-dimensional. It was like they were a real person with the way that she was writing them. There were so many points where I cried in this book over characters that maybe they didn't get as much screen time as the main characters, like Helena's friends and stuff. Everyone had an arc. They all had like their own story that was given the time that it deserved, and it made you feel like 10 times harder for them when something happened to them, whether it was good or bad. And I think now going forward, having been a little bit more experienced now in reading, I think I'm someone who wants to really delve into a long series. Like, I love spending so much time with characters. I think it just makes me fall in love more with the story. I just want something that I can fully lose myself in, and I feel like I totally lost myself in Alchemised, and I would love to experience another book series like that. I'm sad it's a standalone. I'm hoping for a spin-off. The likelihood of that is very low. But yeah, that's my review of Alchemised. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you decide to pick it up or you loved it just as much as I did, I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. I would love to talk about this book more. Again, I'm going to be filming an in-depth review, but that's my review on Alchemised.